pop of champagne corks always signals celebration. Usually, anyway. At my friend Mark's engagement party, the air was thick with it. Laughter, clinking glasses, the hum of happy conversations. My wife, Sarah, was radiant next to me, her arm linked through mine. She looked stunning in a flowing blue dress, her blonde hair shimmering under the soft lights. We were talking to Mark and his fiancée, Jessica, exchanging jokes about wedding planning nightmares, when Sarah squeezed my arm a little harder. "Hey everyone," she said, her voice cutting through the general buzz, a little louder than usual. "Mac?" And Jessica paused, smiling at her, expecting perhaps a toast or a funny anecdote. My heart gave a little flutter. She had that look in her eye, the one she gets when she's about to share big news. I braced myself, wondering if she was going to announce that we'd finally booked that trip to Italy we'd been talking about. My mind raced with pleasant possibilities. Italy, a new car, maybe even a new job offer for me she knew about. Then she took a deep breath, her eyes sparkling, and looked directly at me. "We have some news." My smile widened, anticipating. "Oh yeah," I prompted, playing along, letting her have her moment. She beamed, a glow spreading across her face. "We're pregnant." The words hit me like a physical blow, not a gentle nudge, but a full-on gut-punching impact. The world seemed to tilt. The sounds of the party faded into a distant drone. My smile, I knew, was frozen in place, feeling like a mask I couldn't drop. Pregnant. Sarah was pregnant. With our baby. Our baby? Our baby. Except my mind, for some reason, flashed to the last few months. A strange, cold clarity washed over me. We hadn't been trying to get pregnant. Not actively. We hadn't even really been talking about it. The last serious conversation we had about kids was probably 6 months ago, and we decided to hold off for a while longer. Focus on our careers, save up more money. We'd even been pretty careful. Or at least I thought we had. My eyes darted to Sarah. Her face was pure joy, unadulterated happiness. Everyone around us had erupted in cheers and congratulations. Mark clapped me on the back hard. Jessica hugged Sarah, tears in her eyes. "Oh my God, Sarah, that's amazing," she cried. "When did you find out?" Sarah laughed, a light, airy sound that usually brought a smile to my face. This time it just sounded alien. "Just last week. We wanted to surprise everyone tonight." I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. Last week. She found out last week. My mind started doing quick, frantic calculations. The last time we were intimate was maybe a month ago. Before that, it had been a while. Work had been crazy for me, travel for her. We'd been in a bit of a dry spell, to be honest. Nothing major, just life getting in the way. We were still very much in love, or so I thought. But if she found out last week, that would put conception back a bit further than our last intimate moment. A lot further, actually. My mind was racing, trying to put dates together. It didn't add up. It just didn't. My throat felt tight. I managed to croak out, "Yeah, amazing." It sounded hollow even to my own ears. Sarah turned to me, her eyes shining. "Aren't you excited, honey?" she whispered, a slight tremor in her voice, maybe sensing my hesitation. I forced myself to pull her into a tight hug, burying my face in her hair. The scent of her shampoo, familiar and comforting, suddenly felt strange. "Of course I am, baby," I mumbled into her shoulder, my voice muffled. "I am thrilled. Just a bit shocked. That's all." I tried to sound convincing. I prayed I did. I could feel her arms tighten around me. Relief, perhaps. But inside, my mind was a whirlwind of panic and a terrible, dawning dread. Shocked was an understatement. I was terrified. And a sick feeling told me it wasn't just the normal new parent jitters. It was something far more sinister. People were coming up to us now, hugging, offering well wishes, asking questions. How far along are you, Sarah? Do you have morning sickness? Are you going to find out the gender? Sarah answered them all with a brilliant smile, patting her flat stomach. Just about 8 weeks, she announced. 8 weeks? That meant conception happened around 2 months ago. My blood ran cold 2 months ago. That was a time when we weren't even living in the same city for a week. I'd been away on a business trip, a long one, and she'd been visiting her sister. We hadn't seen each other for at least 10 days, maybe more in that specific window. My brain was screaming. This couldn't be right, unless my memory was completely shot, or hers was. But no, I remembered that trip vividly. It was a miserable week away. And she'd been excited to see her sister, something she hadn't done in ages. I tried to push the thoughts away. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was just stressed. Maybe my timeline was off. People make mistakes. But the cold dread in my stomach wasn't easing. It was growing sharp and icy. The joy on Sarah's face felt like a spotlight on my own internal darkness. Everyone else was celebrating a new life, a miracle. I felt like my own life was about to implode. I kept nodding, smiling, making appropriate noises, while my mind spun out of control. Was this even possible? Could I be that wrong about dates? Could she be, or was there something else? Terrible, unthinkable possibility began to form in the deepest, darkest corner of my mind. A thought so painful, so utterly devastating, that I refused to let it fully surface. Not here, not now. Not when everyone was looking at us, at me with such warmth and happiness. I just wanted to go home. I needed to be alone. I needed to think. And I needed to figure out if my entire world had just been built on a lie. The party ended, eventually. The ride home was a blur. Sarah was practically glowing, talking excitedly about nursery ideas, baby names, and how much her life was about to change. I mumbled agreement, my mind a million miles away, still stuck on the timeline. 8 weeks. 2 months. That was the window, and in that window, I simply wasn't there. Not with her. I kept replaying it. My business trip, her sister's place. The phone calls we had. The video calls, always from her sister's living room. No way at all. When we got home, the immediate euphoria of the party seemed to wear off for Sarah too. She looked at me, a slight frown creasing her brow. "You are very quiet, honey," she said softly, putting her hand on my arm. "Are you really okay? You seemed a little off tonight." My heart hammered. Was she sensing my doubt? Or was it just my forced calm that gave me away? "Yeah, I am fine," I lied, my voice a bit hoarse. "Just a lot to take in, you know. It's big news, really big." Tried to inject some excitement into my voice, but it felt like acting. She smiled a little uncertainly. "I know. I am sorry if I sprang it on you like that. I just got so excited." No, it's great," I said quickly, pulling her into a hug. This time, I tried to make it more genuine. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe everything was fine. I wanted to squash this terrible creeping suspicion. "It's just, wow, a baby." We went to bed. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, listening to Sarah's steady breathing beside me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her beaming face. Then the cold, hard facts of the calendar. The dates spun in my head like a broken record. My trip, her sister, the gap. The math didn't add up. The next few days were a strange kind of torture. Sarah was on cloud nine. She started looking at baby clothes online, downloading pregnancy apps, talking to her mom every day. She was so happy, so utterly thrilled, that it made my internal struggle even harder. How could I even hint at my doubts? How could I spoil this for her? This was supposed to be a joyous time. The doubt was like a parasite, feeding on every innocent comment, every happy plan. I started to notice things, small details that seemed insignificant before, but now screamed at me. She'd been coming home later some nights in the last few months, always with a vague excuse about work. She'd been a little more private with her phone, sometimes turning the screen away when I walked by. I'd brushed it off then, assuming she was just busy or talking to a friend about something private. Now, every single one of those moments felt like a piece of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. I also remembered a strange incident. A few weeks prior, Sarah had gone out with some old college friends. When she came home, she'd been a bit more tipsy than usual, and she'd laughed a little too loudly about a funny guy who had tried to hit on her, but she totally shut him down. I hadn't thought anything of it. Now it felt like a dagger. Had she totally shut him down, or had that been a cover story? I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, overthinking, stressing out because of the sudden news. Maybe she was earlier than 8 weeks, and the doctor's estimate was off. Maybe I was remembering the dates wrong. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. The dates were etched into my memory because that business trip had been particularly long and boring. I started doing discreet research online, pregnancy timelines, conception windows, early ultrasound accuracy. Everything I read just solidified my awful theory. 8 weeks meant conception had happened almost exactly 2 months prior. There was no wiggle room. I felt like I was living a double life. During the day, I was the happy, excited future father. I'd nod along, offer suggestions for names, pretend to be thrilled about the tiny booties she showed me on her phone. But at night, the mask came off. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the cold dread solidify in my chest. One evening, Sarah was making dinner, humming to herself. I was on the couch, pretending to watch television. But really, my mind was racing. I needed to say something. I couldn't keep living like this. The silence was suffocating. The lie was crushing me. But how? How do you ask your wife if the baby she's carrying isn't yours? I cleared my throat. "Hey, Sarah." She turned, smiling, a smudge of flour on her cheek. "Yeah, honey? Do you remember that time? Back in March, when I was on that long business trip and you were at your sister's?" Her smile faltered slightly. "Oh, yeah. What about it?" "Well," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "I was just trying to remember something about that week. It was right around the time, you know, when the baby would have been conceived, if it's 8 weeks now." "Did anything unusual happen then?" She stared at me, her eyes narrowing slightly. The flour smudge seemed to stand out on her face. Her voice was suddenly cool. "What are you trying to say, David?" The blood drained from my face. She knew. She knew what I was implying. The knot in my stomach tightened into a painful ball. This was it. The moment of truth. Or the moment of denial. The air in the kitchen grew thick, heavy with unspoken accusation. Sarah's face had gone from gentle curiosity to a tight defensive mask. Her eyes, usually warm and open, were now cold and guarded. The flour smudge on her cheek suddenly looked like a stain. "What am I trying to say?" I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. "Sarah, you told me you were 8 weeks along. That puts conception right around the time I was away on that business trip. And you were visiting your sister." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. "We weren't together then. Not for a good 10 days, maybe more." She dropped the spoon she was holding. It clattered loudly on the counter. the sound echoing in the sudden silence. "Are you implying what I think you are implying, Dave?" Her voice was low, laced with venom, a tone I rarely heard from her. I felt a surge of fear, but also a strange sense of clarity. This was it. No turning back. "I am just asking for clarification, Sarah. The dates don't add up for me. I need to understand." Her face flushed crimson. "How dare you? How dare you even think such a thing? After all we've been through, after I just told you I am carrying our baby. You question me like this?" She slammed her hand on the counter, making me jump. "Are you calling me a liar? Are you calling me a cheat?" "I am not calling you anything," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, but my hands were shaking. "I am just looking at the facts, and the facts don't make sense to me." "The facts?" She scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "Fact is, I am pregnant with your child, David. And the fact is, you are acting like a paranoid lunatic." Tears welled up in her eyes, but they weren't the quiet, heartbroken tears I might have expected. These were angry, indignant tears. "Maybe my dates are off," she continued, her voice rising. "Maybe the doctor estimated wrong. It happens. Maybe I got pregnant just before you left and it took a few days to implant or whatever. There are so many variables, David. How can you be so cynical?" "I am not being cynical, Sarah," I insisted, my own frustration building. "I am being realistic. We've always been honest with each other. If tea here is something you need to tell me, anything at all, now is the time." Her jaw tightened. "Tea here is nothing to tell you. This is our baby. You are clearly just scared about becoming a father, and you are letting your imagination run wild. This is a cruel thing to do, David. Cruel." She turned away from me, her shoulders shaking, and began to sob. I stood there, rooted to the spot, torn. Part of me wanted to go to her, to comfort her, to apologize for causing her pain. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just panicking, letting my fear cloud my judgment. The idea of being a father was huge, overwhelming. Maybe I was subconsciously looking for an escape. But another part of me, the cold, logical part, screamed that her reaction was too strong, too defensive. The immediate anger, the accusation, the quick turn to tears, it felt like a classic deflection, a textbook response to being caught. "Sarah," I said, my voice softer now, trying a different approach. "Please, just tell me the truth. Whatever it is, we can get through it, but I need to know." She wiped her eyes, spinning back around. Her face was streaked with tears, but her expression was still defiant. "The truth is I am pregnant and you are the father. That's the truth. And if you can't accept that, then I don't know what to say." Her voice was filled with hurt, but also a distinct challenge. "Maybe you don't want me. That stung. That's not fair," I countered. "You know I want a family. I want a family with you. But I also need honesty. And you have it." She practically yelled. "I am being honest. You are just choosing not to believe me." She threw her hands up in exasperation. "I can't believe you are doing this to me when I am pregnant. This is supposed to be a happy time." The argument went in circles for what felt like hours. She cried, she accused, she played the victim. I tried to reason, to explain my concerns, to get her to just acknowledge the timeline issue. But she wouldn't budge. She dug her heels in, insisting I was paranoid, that I was cold, that I didn't trust her. Eventually, exhausted, I gave up. We went to bed in icy silence. She slept with her back to me. I lay awake, the familiar dread now mixed with a bitter anger. I couldn't live with this uncertainty. Her refusal to even discuss the dates, her immediate shift to anger and tears. It wasn't the reaction of an innocent person. It was the reaction of someone hiding something. I knew then what I had to do. I didn't want to. It felt like a betrayal in itself. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was already being betrayed. I needed proof. Definitive proof. And there was only one way to get it. I had to get a DNA test. I hated the thought of it. It felt like the ultimate violation of trust. But what trust was left, really? I had to know. For my own sanity. For my future. For the future of this child. The decision to get a DNA test, even just researching it, felt like crossing a line I could never uncross. It was the moment my internal conflict solidified into a grim determination. I couldn't live with the gnawing doubt. Sarah's refusal to even acknowledge the factual discrepancy of the dates. Her immediate defensiveness. It all pointed to one thing. The next few days were excruciating. Sarah acted as if our argument had never happened, or at least that it was my irrational paranoia that had caused it. And now it was over. She continued to plan for the baby, buying little outfits, talking about how we would decorate the nursery. Each conversation felt like a fresh wound. I'd nod along, forcing a smile, while inside I was calculating, researching, planning my own secret investigation. I spent hours online looking into paternity tests. Pre-birth tests were a possibility, but they were invasive, risky for the baby, and required the mother's consent. That was out. My only option, if I wanted to do this discreetly, was to wait until the baby was born and then get a postnatal test. This meant months of living this lie. Months of pretending to be an excited father-to-be, while a dark cloud hung over my head. The thought of waiting that long was unbearable, but there was no other way. I even looked into sneaky methods, like getting a sample from Sarah's hair or toothbrush. But those methods weren't reliable for paternity testing. And even if they were, they wouldn't give me answers about the baby. So I waited. And I watched. I started paying closer attention to Sarah's phone habits. She was definitely more protective of it. Sometimes, I'd see her quickly turn the screen away if I walked into the room. Other times, she'd be texting late at night, and when I asked who it was, she'd just say my mom or Jessica. Simple, quick answers that didn't invite further questions. But now they felt like red flags. One evening I saw a notification pop up on her phone, which she'd left on the kitchen counter while getting water. It was a text message. The sender wasn't a contact name I recognized, just a phone number. And the preview of the message was only a few words. Can't stop thinking about you. My blood ran cold. My heart hammered against my ribs. I grabbed the phone, my fingers fumbling. I tried to open the message, but it was locked. I knew her passcode usually, but she must have changed it. I tried the old one, no luck. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. Just then, Sarah walked back into the kitchen. She saw me with her phone. Her eyes widened and her hand flew to her mouth. "David, what are you doing with my phone?" Her voice was sharp, accusatory. I held it up, trying to keep my voice steady. I saw a message pop up, a strange number. "Can't stop thinking about you." Who is this, Sarah? Her face went pale, then red. She snatched the phone from my hand. "That's none of your business. It's just a spam message. You have no right to snoop through my phone." A spam message that says, "Can't stop thinking about you?" I scoffed. "Seriously, Sarah? Who is it?" She avoided my gaze, turning her back to me, furiously typing on her phone, probably deleting the message. "It's nothing, David. You are being ridiculous. Just leave it." "I can't leave it, Sarah," I burst out, my voice rising. "I am trying to believe you. I am trying to be excited about this baby. But you are making it impossible. The dates don't add up, you are secretive with your phone, and now this. What do you expect me to think?" She spun around, tears streaming down her face again, but this time they seemed less angry. more desperate. I expect you to trust me. I expect you to believe your wife. Do you know how much this is hurting me, David? To have you doubt me like this. The argument escalated again, a vicious circle of accusation and denial. She claimed I was being controlling, paranoid. I claimed she was being secretive, untrustworthy. Ended with her retreating to the bedroom, locking the door, and me sleeping on the couch. The next morning, the air was still thick with tension. She acted normal, a little subdued, but she didn't apologize for her phone, nor did she offer any explanation. I didn't push it. The message confirmed my deepest fear. It wasn't just a timeline issue. There was another person involved. I registered an account with a discreet DNA testing service online. I paid extra for expedited results. Kit would arrive in a plain package, addressed to me. I made sure to be home when it was delivered. The days stretched into weeks, then months. Sarah's belly began to swell. We announced the pregnancy to more friends and extended family. Everyone was thrilled. Baby showers were planned. Gifts poured in. I attended them all, smiling, making small talk, pretending to be the happy husband and expectant father. Every laugh felt hollow. Every congratulation felt like a lie. The nursery was painted a soft yellow. A crib was assembled. Tiny clothes were folded neatly in drawers. I participated in it all, my heart ached. I found myself looking at Sarah's stomach, feeling a confusing mix of emotion. A flicker of protective instinct for the life growing inside her, mixed with the cold, hard knowledge that it might not be mine. The image of that text message, "Can't stop thinking about you," burned in my mind. The waiting felt endless. Each kick I felt when I put my hand on Sarah's belly was a jolt, a reminder of the truth I desperately needed to uncover. The baby was real. Soon it would be here. And with its arrival would come the answers. Answers I feared more than anything. The final weeks of Sarah's pregnancy were a blur of nervous anticipation. For her, it was the excitement of meeting our baby. For me, it was the agonizing wait for the truth to finally reveal itself. Every Braxton Hicks contraction, every worried phone call from Sarah to her doctor, felt like another tick on the clock towards Judgment Day. We prepared the hospital bag. I attended Lama's classes with her, forcing a cheerful demeanor, asking all the right questions. The other couples there were so open, so full of shared joy and nervousness. I felt like an imposter, a ghost haunting a scene of pure happiness. The night Sarah went into labor, it was sudden and intense. Her water broke just after midnight. We rushed to the hospital, a mix of panic and excitement. She was in a lot of pain, and I did my best to be supportive, to be the loving husband she expected. I held her hand, wiped her brow, encouraged her through contractions. In those moments, the doubt sometimes faded, replaced by the primal fear for her safety and the baby's. I saw the pure strength in her, the incredible feat of bringing a life into the world. After what felt like an eternity, but was actually around 16 hours, our baby was born. It was a girl. She came out squalling, pink and tiny, with a shock of dark hair. The doctor placed her on Sarah's chest, and Sarah's face crumpled with tears of relief and love. "Oh, David," she whispered, looking at me. "She's perfect. Absolutely perfect." I looked at the baby. My breath caught in my throat. She was beautiful, undeniably. But as I looked at her, a different kind of calculation began. My family had light hair, blue eyes. Sarah was blonde with blue eyes. This baby had dark hair and dark eyes. It wasn't definitive, of course. Babies change. But it was another whisper of doubt, another piece that didn't quite fit. I tried to push it away. This was my daughter. I had to believe it. I held her for the first time, her tiny hand gripping my finger. A wave of protectiveness, so fierce and unexpected, washed over me. For a moment, all the suspicion, all the pain just vanished. This tiny, innocent creature, how could I ever hurt her? How could I reject her? But the logical part of my brain, the one that had been doing calculations for months, wouldn't let it go. The dark hair, the dark eyes, they just didn't align with either of us. It added another layer of urgency to my plan. The next day, while Sarah was asleep, exhausted from the birth, I put my plan into action. I had brought the DNA kit with me, hidden deep in my backpack. The instructions were clear. Use a sterile cotton swab to gently rub the inside of the baby's cheek to collect cells. It was quick and painless. My heart pounded as I looked at the sleeping baby in her bassinet. She looked so peaceful, so vulnerable. I felt like a monster. But I had to know. For her sake too. For her future. If I wasn't her father, then the truth would need to come out eventually. Better now than years down the line. I took a deep breath, unwrapped the swab and gently, carefully, rubbed it inside her tiny cheek. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. I sealed the swab in the provided envelope, labeled it, and tucked it away securely. Then I did the same for myself, collecting my own sample. The next morning I made an excuse about needing to grab something from work and drove straight to the courier service. I paid for overnight delivery to the lab. Package felt impossibly heavy in my hand, carrying the weight of my entire future. The weight was unbearable. The lab promised results in 3 to 5 business days. Every phone call, every email notification made my heart jump. I kept checking the tracking number online, watching its progress. In the hospital, and then back home, I tried to immerse myself in being a father. I changed diapers, helped with feedings, rocked her to sleep. I talked to her in soft whispers, marveled at her tiny fingers and toes. Sometimes, I felt a genuine connection, a bond forming that terrified me in its intensity. How could I have these feelings for a child who might not be mine? Sarah was blissful. She looked at me, at the baby, with such love and contentment. "You are such a natural, David," she'd say, her eyes welling up. "I knew you'd be a great dad." Each compliment was a fresh stab of guilt, a reminder of the secret I was keeping. The 3 days passed with agonizing slowness. On the 4th day, I received an email from the lab. "Your results are ready." My breath hitched. My hands started to shake uncontrollably. This was it. The moment of truth. My heart was pounding so hard, I felt dizzy. I stared at the subject line for a long moment, unable to click. I felt a desperate urge to run, to hide, to pretend this email didn't exist. But I knew I couldn't. I had to face it. I had to know. I closed my eyes, took a shaky breath, and clicked. The screen flickered open, revealing the dreaded document. My eyes scanned frantically, searching for the keywords, the percentages, the verdict. My breath hitched in my throat as I saw it, highlighted, bolded, unmistakable. Probability of paternity, 0%. The number seemed to scream at me from the screen, 0%. Not 99.9%, not even 1%. 0 exclusion. My will didn't just tilt, it shattered, it imploded. The air left my lungs in a ragged gasp. My vision blurred. I felt a wave of nausea so intense that I thought I might throw up. My hands were shaking so violently, I had to grip the edge of my desk to steady myself. 0%. The baby. The baby wasn't mine. The words echoed in my head. A cruel, mocking refrain. Every memory of the last 9 months flashed before my eyes. Sarah's glowing face at the party, her excited chatter about nursery colors, the baby shower gifts, my faked smiles. The arguments, the secret phone message, the late nights, the dark hair, the dark eyes. All of it slammed into me with the force of a tidal wave. Betrayal. The word was a hot, bitter taste in my mouth. She lied. She lied to my face. For 9 months, she carried another man's child, passed it off as mine, and let me believe I was going to be a father. A roar of white-hot anger surged through me, so powerful it made my ears ring. Anger at her for the blatant deception. Anger at myself for being so blind, so trusting, so utterly foolish. How could I have been so stupid? How could I have let her do this to me? I crumpled the printout of the results in my fist, crushing the paper until it was a mangled ball. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash something. I wanted to rip apart everything in my sight. Crib in the other room, the tiny clothes, the baby pictures on my phone, they all felt like mocking symbols of a life that was never mine. Then the anger gave way to a deeper, colder ache. Heartbreak. Profound, soul-crushing heartbreak. The baby. The little girl with the dark hair and dark eyes who had gripped my finger. The innocent little life I had started to bond with, to feel protective over. She was not mine. She was a product of her mother's lie, her mother's betrayal, and I was nothing to her. Tears welled up, hot and stinging, blurring my vision again. But these weren't tears of sadness, not entirely. They were tears of pure, raw grief for the future I had envisioned, the family I thought I was building, the love I thought I shared. All of it, a cruel mirage. I stood up, stumbling slightly. My legs felt like jelly. I walked to the window, staring blankly at the street outside. People were walking by, going about their lives, oblivious. Their normalcy felt like an affront. How could the world just keep spinning when mine had just been ripped apart? The baby was sleeping in her bassinet in the next room. I could hear her soft breathing. Every gentle exhale felt like a punch to the gut. She was a constant, undeniable presence, a living, breathing monument to Sarah's lie. I replayed Sarah's words, her indignant tears during our first confrontation. How dare you question me? Are you calling me a liar? This is our baby. The memory made me sick. Her performance had been Oscar-worthy. Every tear, every accusation of my paranoia had been a calculated manipulation. What now? The question hammered in my head. What do I do? I couldn't stay here. I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't look at Sarah knowing this. I couldn't look at the baby knowing this. The thought of continuing the charade for even one more day was unbearable. I pulled out my phone, my fingers still trembling. I scrolled through my contacts. Who could I call? My parents, my best friend, Mark. How do you even begin to tell someone this kind of news? My wife had a baby, but it's not mine. And she knew. The words sounded insane, like something out of a daytime drama. My eyes fell on Sarah's name in my contacts. Just her name. Not wife, not love, just Sarah. Cold, hard resolve began to form in me. I had to confront her. This wasn't something that could be avoided. Truth had burst into the open, and it demanded to be dealt with. I took a deep, shaky breath, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. My heart was still pounding a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. I picked up the crumpled test result, smoothing it out as best I could. This piece of paper. This simple piece of paper held the power to shatter a marriage, a family, a life, and it had. I walked towards the bedroom, my footsteps heavy. Each step felt like walking into a different life, one I never wanted, one filled with pain and betrayal. I pushed open the door. Sarah was there, holding the baby, rocking her gently. She looked up, smiling, oblivious. Her smile was like a fresh stab wound. "Hey, honey," she said softly. "Look, she just woke up. Want to hold her?" I stared at her, the test result clutched in my hand. My voice was a raw whisper. "We need to talk, Sarah." Sarah's smile faded. She must have seen the look on my face, the rigid set of my jaw, the raw pain in my eyes. Her gaze flickered to the crumpled paper in my hand. Then back to my face, a flicker of fear crossing her features. The baby nestled in her arms began to fuss softly. "What is it, David?" she asked, her voice laced with a tremor. She held the baby tighter, a protective gesture that felt like a mockery. I couldn't speak immediately. The words were lodged in my throat, heavy and bitter. I just held out the paper, slowly unfolding it, letting her see the bold, damning words. Probability of paternity, 0%. Her eyes widened as she read it. The color drained from her face, leaving her ashen. She looked like she'd been struck. For a long moment she just stared at the document. Then her gaze slowly lifted to meet mine. Her eyes were filled with a raw, primal terror. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Where did you get this?" "You know what it is," I said, my voice hoarse, devoid of emotion. "And you know where I got it." "I got it because you wouldn't tell me the truth. I got it because I couldn't live with the lie anymore." Tears instantly welled up in her eyes, but this time they weren't angry tears. They were tears of pure despair. Her chin began to tremble. "David, please," she started, her voice breaking. "Don't please me, Sarah." I cut her off, the anger finally breaking through the numbness. My voice rose, sharp and dangerous. "Don't you dare. For 9 months you looked me in the eye. You let me believe this baby was mine. You let me make plans. You let me dream of a future. You let me prepare to be a father to another man's child." My voice cracked with the force of my emotion. "How could you do this to me? How could you be so cruel?" She flinched as if I'd struck her. The baby, startled by the raised voices, started to cry louder. Sarah tried to shush her, but her hands were shaking. "I was scared, David," she sobbed, finally admitting, finally breaking. "I was so scared, I didn't know what to do." "Scared of what, Sarah?" I challenged, taking a step closer. "Scared of telling the truth? Scared of facing consequences for your actions? While I was here, loving you, trusting you, thinking we had a life together." She lowered her head, burying her face in the baby's shoulder. The baby's cries intensified, echoing the storm in the room. "It was a mistake," she mumbled, her voice muffled. "Just one time." "It meant nothing." "One time?" I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping me. "One time that changed everything, Sarah. Who was it? Who is the father of this child?" She hesitated, still rocking the crying baby, her shoulders shaking with sobs. It was Mark, from the office. My breath hitched again. Mark from her office. The guy I had met a few times at company functions. The guy I thought was just a friendly co-worker. My mind reeled, trying to place him, trying to process this new layer of betrayal. It wasn't a random stranger. It was someone she saw every day. Someone she clearly had enough of a connection with to do this. Mark? I repeated, the name sounding foreign and dirty in my mouth. When did this one time happen? She finally lifted her head, her face blotchy and tear-streaked, eyes red-rimmed. "That night, when you were on your business trip, and I was at my sister's. I went out with some old friends, he was there. I was lonely, and I had too much to drink. And it just happened. I swear, David, it was a mistake. I regretted it instantly. My blood ran cold. The pieces clicked into place with a horrifying precision. The funny guy who tried to hit on her. The late nights, the texts, the defensiveness. All of it, every single lie, every single deception. "You regret it," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You regret it. So you thought the best way to handle your regret was to lie to me for 9 months. Let me believe this baby was mine, and then let me find out like this." I gestured wildly at the test result. "You let me love this child, Sarah. You let me prepare my life for her." My voice broke again. "She's not even a month old and I am already heartbroken because of you." She tried to reach for me, her hand extended. "David, please let's talk about this. We can fix this. I love you. I swear I do." It was a moment of weakness. It will never happen again. "Fix this." I stared at her, disbelief warring with rage. "Fix this? There is no fixing this, Sarah. You shattered everything. Every ounce of trust, every memory, every plan we ever made. It's all tainted now. It's a lie." The baby's cries had lessened, replaced by whimpers. Sarah was still clutching her, looking at me with pleading eyes. But all I saw was the betrayal. The beautiful woman I married, the one I trusted with my life, had utterly destroyed it. "I can't," I said, shaking my head, backing away. "Can't even look at you right now. I can't look at her, not knowing this." My voice was barely a whisper now, hollow and defeated. "This is over, Sarah. We're over." Her face crumpled again, and fresh sobs racked her body. "No, David, please, don't say that. Think about our baby. Think about our family." "There is no our baby and no our family anymore, Sarah," I stated, my voice flat. "T here is just your baby, and your lies and my broken heart." I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her there sobbing, with the crying child who was the living embodiment of her devastating betrayal. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. Not another second. I don't remember walking out of the bedroom, or even getting my keys. My body felt disconnected from my mind, moving on autopilot. All I knew was that I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. Every object, every photograph, every shadow felt tainted by Sarah's betrayal. The scent of baby powder, which had filled the air for the past month, now choked me. I ended up driving aimlessly for hours. The city lights blurred through my tear-filled eyes. My phone rang countless times. Sarah, her mother, a few friends who had probably heard the news was not good. I ignored them all. I wasn't ready to talk. I wasn't ready to explain. I was too consumed by a raw, guttural pain that felt like it was tearing me apart from the inside. Eventually, I pulled over in a quiet park, the kind where couples walked dogs and kids played during the day. At night, it was empty, dark. I just sat there, staring into the blackness, the engine off, the silence punctuated only by my ragged breaths and the frantic beat of my own heart. My mind replayed Sarah's confession. It was Mark from the office. The name was a fresh wound. Mark. Someone I had casually shaken hands with, shared polite conversation with. The banality of it made it even worse. Not some passionate whirlwind affair, but a drunken mistake with a coworker. A casual betrayal that shattered my entire life. The rage surged again, hot and blinding. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, wanting to scream until my throat was raw. But what was the point? It wouldn't change anything. The truth was out. The baby wasn't mine. My marriage was a lie. As the initial shock and anger began to recede, a profound sense of loss settled over me. I wasn't just losing Sarah. I was losing the future I had envisioned. The little girl with the dark eyes who had gripped my finger. Quiet moments of holding her, rocking her, whispering promises into her tiny ear. Those moments which had felt so real were now just cruel memories of a life that wasn't mine. I thought about the nursery, painted yellow, the crib, the tiny clothes, all the hope and dreams I had poured into preparing for this child. It was all for nothing. It was all a deception. By the time dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of gray and bruised purple, I had made a decision. I couldn't stay. I had to end the marriage. There was no coming back from this. Trust, once broken so irrevocably, could never be fully rebuilt. Not after this scale of deception. I drove back to the house. The sight of it, our home, now felt alien and unwelcoming. I walked inside, the air heavy with unspoken words. Sarah was in the living room, curled up on the couch, looking utterly desolate. Her eyes were swollen and red from crying. The baby was probably still asleep in her bassinet. She looked up as I entered, her gaze full of a mix of fear and desperate hope. "David," she whispered, her voice raw. I stood in the doorway, not moving closer. "We need to talk, Sarah," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Really talk." She nodded, tears immediately welling up again. "I know. I am so sorry. Please, David, don't leave me. We can work through this. I'll do anything." "No, we can't," I stated, shaking my head. Here is no working through this. You lied to me, Sarah. For 9 months. You let me raise another man's child. You let me believe I was a father. That's not something you come back from. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years. She needs her real father, Sarah. The one you chose to sleep with. I watched her flinch again. And I need to be free of this lie. I can't be a pretend father. I can't live a lie. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. I felt a pang of something akin to pity, but it was quickly overshadowed by the crushing weight of my own pain. "I am leaving, Sarah," I said, my voice firm. "I am going to stay with Mark and Jessica for a while." The irony of saying Mark's name, my best friend, felt like another cruel twist. They knew nothing. Yet, "No," she cried, looking up, her face a mask of desperation. "Please, David, don't do this." "I've already done it, Sarah," I corrected her, my voice quiet. "You did it. You made this choice." I took a deep breath. "I'll contact a lawyer. We need to start divorce proceedings. And we need to figure out what happens with everything. With the baby, you need to tell her father. He needs to know." Her body sagged, defeat washing over her. She knew I was serious. She knew there was no going back. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by her ragged sobs. The baby stirred in the other room. A new life, born from a lie, and the destruction of mine. Breaking the news to my closest friends and family felt like ripping open fresh wounds every single time. After leaving Sarah, I drove straight to Mark and Jessica's house. They were still asleep, but I rang the doorbell repeatedly until Mark, bleary-eyed and confused, opened the door. "Dave? What the hell?" "It's 6 a.m. What's going on?" he asked, seeing my disheveled appearance and tear-stained face. Jessica appeared behind him, her eyes wide with alarm. "David, what happened? Is Sarah okay? Is the baby okay?" I walked past them into their living room, collapsing onto their couch. The words felt like ash in my mouth. "Sarah's fine. The baby's fine." I took a shaky breath. "But the baby isn't mine." The silence that followed was deafening. Mark and Jessica just stared at me, their faces a mixture of disbelief and horror. Mark sat down heavily beside me. Jessica sank onto the armchair opposite. "What are you talking about, Dave?" Mark asked, his voice low and cautious. I explained everything. Timeline issues, the growing doubts, the secret DNA test, the 0% paternity result, and Sarah's tearful confession. I didn't mention Mark from the office. Not yet. I couldn't bring myself to say his name. Not in front of my best friend, who was also named Mark. It felt too confusing, too painful. When I finished, Jessica had tears streaming down her face. Mark's jaw was clenched, his eyes blazing with a quiet fury. "Oh my God, David," Jessica whispered, reaching out to grasp my hand. "I am so sorry. That's unthinkable." Mark stood up and started pacing. "That bitch," he muttered under his breath. How could she do this? To you? To the baby? His face was contorted with anger. "I'll kill her." I stayed with them for the next few days. They were incredible, providing a safe haven, endless cups of coffee, and just letting me exist in my grief and anger. Telling my parents was even harder. My mom broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. My dad, usually stoic, just sat there, his face grim, rubbing her back. They had been so excited about their first grandchild. The news shattered them too. The hardest part was facing the world. Every congratulatory message I received, every well-meaning question about the baby, felt like a cruel joke. I had to start carefully letting people know, or at least hinting at the separation without going into the full humiliating details. It was exhausting. Some people were sympathetic, others gossipy. The whispers started. The pitying glances. I felt like a spectacle, my broken heart on display for everyone to dissect. Sarah continued to call and text, begging me to reconsider, to think of the baby, to save our marriage. I ignored most of them, letting my lawyer handle all communication. The legal process began. It was cold, sterile, and clinical, a stark contrast to the emotional devastation I was experiencing. Then came the conversation with my lawyer about the baby, even though she wasn't biologically mine in some jurisdictions. If I had held myself out as the father, there could be complexities around child support or even custody. My lawyer assured me that with a DNA test, it would be clear I wasn't the biological father and therefore wouldn't have any legal obligation. But the thought of severing all ties with the child, of completely walking away from her, filled me with a deep, aching sadness. She was innocent in all of this. She was just a baby. The hardest phone call was to Sarah's parents. They were devastated. They had loved me like a son. Their daughter had betrayed me, and by extension, them. They were distraught, apologetic, and heartbroken. They asked if they could still see me, if I would still be a part of their lives. I told them I needed time. Everything felt too raw. Eventually, the time came to retrieve my belongings from the house. Sarah was there, looking thin and pale. She didn't try to stop me. She just watched, her eyes pleading, mournful. The baby was asleep in her bassinet in the living room. I didn't look at her directly. I couldn't. It hurt too much. The scent of baby powder, the tiny socks on the drying rack, it was all a reminder of the life that had been stolen from me. I packed my clothes, my books, my personal items. I left everything related to the baby. The crib, the toys, the clothes, they weren't mine to take. They were part of a life that was never mine. As I carried the last box to my car, I saw Sarah standing in the doorway, tears silently streaming down her face. She held a small, framed photo. It was a picture of the three of us, taken in the hospital shortly after the baby was born. We were smiling, her holding the baby, me with my arm around her. A perfect, happy family. A perfect, heartbreaking lie. I didn't say goodbye. I just got in my car and drove away, leaving behind the shattered pieces of my marriage, my dreams, and the family I thought I had. The first few weeks after moving out were a blur of pain and numbness. I stayed with Mark and Jessica, grateful for their quiet support. They never pushed me to talk, but they were always there to listen when I needed to vent, to rage, or just to cry. Most nights, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed the same scenes. Sarah's announcement, the timeline, the phone message, the DNA results, her confession. Each memory was a fresh stab. I started therapy. It was hard, forcing myself to articulate the depths of the betrayal, the crushing loss. But it helped, slowly. The therapist encouraged me to focus on myself, on healing, on rebuilding. She said it was a process, not a race, a long, painful process. The divorce proceedings were straightforward, thanks to the DNA evidence. Sarah didn't contest anything. There was nothing to contest. The marriage was legally dissolved in a matter of months. It was strangely anticlimactic, a sterile end to what had once been the most important part of my life. The day the papers were finalized, I felt a strange mix of relief and a deeper emptiness. It was over, truly over. I found a small apartment for myself. It felt empty, cold. I tried to fill it with new things, things that didn't carry the ghosts of my past. No pictures of Sarah, no reminders of the life we had planned. I started exercising again, running until my lungs burned and my muscles ached, trying to sweat out the pain. I threw myself into work, burying myself in projects, anything to keep my mind from wandering back to the heart. Occasionally I'd see photos on social media of mutual friends holding Sarah's baby. She was growing fast, developing a personality, and she still had that dark hair and dark eyes. Every time I saw her, a pang went through me, a mix of longing for what could have been, and relief that I hadn't stayed in a lie. I never contacted Mark from Sarah's office. I didn't want to. I hoped Sarah had told him. It was his responsibility now, not mine. I didn't want to know anything about them. I just wanted to move on. The healing wasn't linear. Some days I felt okay. I could laugh with friends, enjoy a meal, feel a flicker of hope for the future. Other days, the grief would hit me like a physical blow. A song on the radio, a couple holding hands, the sight of a stroller. Anything could trigger a wave of nausea and despair. Those were the days I curled up in bed, just letting myself feel the pain, knowing it was part of the process. I stopped blaming myself. I had been a loving husband, a trusting partner. Sarah had made the choice. She had been the one who betrayed, who lied, who shattered everything. It wasn't my fault. This realization was freeing in a way. It allowed me to direct my energy towards healing instead of self-recrimination. Months turned into a year. The raw edges of my pain began to dull. The emptiness in my apartment still felt large, but it was no longer crushing. It was just space. Space to rebuild, space for a new life. I started dating again tentatively. It was strange explaining my past. The story was always met with shock, sympathy, and often an uncomfortable silence. Trust was a massive hurdle. How do you trust again after such a profound betrayal? I learned to take it slow, to be honest about my past, and to observe carefully. I don't know if I'll ever truly be completely healed. The scar will always be there, a reminder of the deepest heartbreak I've ever experienced. It taught me about the fragility of trust, the devastating power of lies, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. I still sometimes wonder about the baby, about her future. I hope she's happy, healthy, and surrounded by love. And I hope that one day her true story will be told to her with kindness and honesty, unlike the way mine was. My life is different now. It's not the life I planned, the one I built with Sarah. It's a life I am building anew, brick by painful brick. Tea here is no big, dramatic, happy ending. Just the quiet, steady effort of moving forward, one day at a time. The champagne corks still pop for others, and I can listen to them now without the same bitter sting. I am finding my own kind of peace. Quiet peace, born from the ashes of heartbreak, but a peace nonetheless.